Donald Trump, the administration, Karoline Leavitt specifically in this case, have been getting a lot of questions, rightful and justified questions relative to Donald Trump's commitment to free speech, commitment to his oath to the Constitution of the United States. Is anybody tired of me picking up the Constitution, constantly talking about the rule of law, lecturing the party that claims to be the party of law and order, the party that actually respects the Constitution, the party that's filled with members in Congress who pull their constitutions out and they're all tattered and worn like a well-worn pair of jeans. Look at how much I read this. There's no way I could read this, that it would be this torn up if I wasn't always poring over it and memorizing its contents. But they're liars and patriots. They don't care about their oaths. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about freedom of speech. And this was no more evident than it was yesterday when Karoline Leavitt fled the press briefing room, stormed out of the press briefing room because she was getting too many questions about Donald Trump's commitment to the First Amendment, to protect the rights of people to peacefully assemble in the pursuit of redressing their government of their grievances, which is the words in the First Amendment of the Constitution. And David Sanger from the New York Times asked Karoline Leavitt about this, about Donald Trump and his aversion to supporting the rights of Americans to protest against him, to lift their voices in unison, expressing their displeasure with their government, the government they pay for, that we, the people, pay for. And Karoline Leavitt gave a rambling, nonsense answer as she stormed out. They cut the briefing short and she was out of there. Watch this.
Okay. And then on the domestic side, you were just asked about the First Amendment rights issues. In the president's comments yesterday, though, he just said protesters would be strongly dealt with. In your list before, you referred to insurrectionists, rioters, and protesters together. Obviously, they're quite different from your earlier answer. I'm struck by the fact that the president has not at any point said the most important thing here is to protect the First Amendment rights of peaceful protesters. So I'm wondering, where in his hierarchy of interests does he place that? Is the First Amendment protection the most important? Is stopping violence most important? Why is he not out saying all peaceful protesters will be protected?
I think two things can be important at the same time. And the president, as I just answered, supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest. He supports the First Amendment. But that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen taking place in Los Angeles. We have seen mobs of violent rioters and agitators assaulting law enforcement officers, assaulting our federal immigration authorities. And we have seen, as I said, this goes back to what this administration is trying to do and accomplish, and that's enforcing law and order in our nation's communities. And it's removing public safety threats from communities in Los Angeles.
You're saying the majority have not been peaceful, the majority have been violent.
I just read for you the arrest numbers. We've arrested nearly 400 illegal aliens alone, just illegal aliens who have been arrested in these riots since June 6th, since they began.
Thousands of people on the streets.
Yeah, and we've had hundreds of people who have assaulted law enforcement officers. Are you saying that that's that's appropriate behavior?
No,
Are you
no,
saying
I'm not
that the
saying that at all.
president
I'm
shouldn't
just
take
trying
action?
to figure out.
The Democrat governor and the Democrat mayor of Los Angeles have failed their citizens. And the majority of Americans, the majority of Californians, do not want to see law enforcement officers being assaulted in the streets. And thankfully, the president took action and stepped in to protect our federal law enforcement agents, to protect federal buildings, to protect the federal mission of deporting illegal criminals off of our streets. And that mission will continue every day as far as we're concerned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
This is how to formulate a question. Look, I obviously have criticism for the New York Times, but I think David Sanger in this case did a fantastic job. All of these questions need to be answered. I was going to say needed to be answered. They still do need to be answered because she did not answer them. I'm struck by the fact, David Sanger again, that the president has not at any point said the most important thing here is to protect the First Amendment rights of peaceful protesters. So I'm wondering, where in his hierarchy of interest does he place that? Is the First Amendment protection the most important? Is stopping violence most important? Why is he not out saying all peaceful protesters will be protected? And the answer that she did not give before she ran away like a coward is that Donald Trump doesn't care. But the answer she should have given, maybe that she should have given, is that absolutely peaceful protesters should be protected at all costs. And any law enforcement official, any law enforcement officer, federal, state, local, who violates someone's constitutional rights in the exercise of their free speech will be held accountable. If you trample with multiple horses on the scene of a protest on top of a protester who is there peacefully, you will be held accountable. Instead, no. Law and order, back the blue, thin blue line, they could do no wrong. When people like me, many in my space, we condemn violence. We condemn looting. That should not be taking place. In fact, those people aren't the protesters. Those are opportunists. People throwing effectively what is a bomb, a Molotov cocktail, at an officer should be cracked down upon, should be brought through the paces of our judicial system, of our system of laws, where there's an arrest, there is a hearing. If there needs to be a grand jury indictment, then they do that. But they go before a jury of their peers and they are either found guilty or not guilty of their crimes. That's how it works. It's not summary punishment on the scene. It's not up to a law enforcement officer, to a cop, to decide, this one looks like he needs a good trampling. But Donald Trump doesn't differentiate between peaceful protests and violent protests. He doesn't, it's all the same to him. And it's so much all the same that she escaped. She ran away from the transcript, and that mission will continue every day as far as we're concerned. Thank you guys, I'm out of here. Cowardice, fascist, totalitarian, authoritarian. These ghouls want to rule like Donald Trump has talked about for years, just like Xi Jinping, with an iron fist of his 1.4 billion people. That's what Donald Trump wants. He wants to rule with an iron fist, just like dictators do. Chalk one up for the New York Times, or specifically for David Sanger in this case. And again, it's just taking fat L's every day of her life trying to defend the indefensible of Donald Trump from Karoline Leavitt. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. You can comment below. That would be fantastic. We can mix it up there. You could also call the voicemail line 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily at dollemore.com. I would love to hear from you. Consider supporting the work. You become a channel member right here on YouTube for $2 a month. You can go over to my Patreon page, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. That's not just for the podcast. We just got locked into that web address with Patreon. That supports this show. It partially supports Brittany Page's show. It supports our podcast. All the efforts of the content we make relative to trying to save America. I'll see you next time. Be genuine. Take care of one another.